Thank you. Really happy to be here. I can't really tell how excited I am to be able to speak in front of you guys. Mr. Whitaker had asked me how long I could speak for. I said, well, maybe 20, 25 minutes. He said, I thought you were going to speak for an hour and a half. I said, my life is not that interesting, but I'll see what I can pull together. So what I wanted to talk to you about today was basically to follow your dreams, because when I was your age, when I was sitting there in your seats, I had no idea I was going to do any of this. If you had told me that I was going to be working for Disney, I would have said you were crazy. If someone's going to write screenplays, novels, do any of this stuff, I would have had no clue. What I did know, though, however, was that something special was going to happen. And I want to really focus on the fact that no matter where you're sitting right now in terms of your station in life, poverty, wealth, whatever it is, there's no negative thought that you should have about your ability to succeed. That should not impact your abilities whatsoever, because I came from nothing. I was born in Harlem, New York, and extreme poverty, but let me just get right to the PowerPoint, because I'll cover all of that. This is me at my desk at Feature Animation here in Florida when the studio was open. It's since closed in 2004. And there I was able to, I guess, have what people call my dream job. And really, technically, there's no such thing as a dream job, because every job has its shortcomings. I was a scriptwriter, author, illustrator. No job was beneath me. Prior to getting these opportunities, I did everything. I was a waiter, I was a pot washer, dug ditches, worked in a factory, trash crew on a construction site. I even shoveled cow manure in high school. So, I know, that's disgusting. But one thing I did learn from all those jobs was the value of my time. It was motivation for me to know that, yeah, I think I want to do better than this. So that definitely did serve a positive purpose also. And it also showed me the value of $1, because I worked really hard even in all those menial jobs. So just to let you know that I was not born working at Disney Feature Animation. So don't be afraid to follow your dreams. Sounds like a strange comment, because you would say to yourself, well, why should I be afraid? What would there be to be afraid of? Common answer is, well, it's too hard, or I'm afraid that I'll fail, or I'm not good enough, or I don't have a dream or a passion or anything I'm good at. That's like a gut check that happens to all of us. Whenever you're faced with a challenge, those comments, those thoughts will come up. They come up to me now every time a client comes up to me, can you do this? I've learned since then that I'm smart enough to figure it out on the fly, so I answer yes, and then I work on how to do it. But I used to always tell myself, no, I probably can't. And then I watched other people take my opportunity and run with it. So that was a lesson that I learned to stay more positive about myself. Because the fact is, you are able. Everybody here has a talent, and everybody here is special. The truth is that, let me pause and back up for a second, because I heard this analogy this morning. I thought this is perfect. In terms of opportunity and preparedness, which is really what I'm trying to talk to you about, when I let you know about the opportunities that came to me in my life and how I had to prepare for them. But this analogy is perfect. Do we have any football players here? Any jocks? No? Okay, all right, cool. I see a couple hands in the back. Okay. Everyone knows that, everyone has seen a quarterback throw a long pass, a deep pass down the field, right? Everybody's seen the quarterback throw those deep bombs. A quarterback does not throw to a receiver. He throws to a spot on the field. It's the receiver's job to get to that spot, get underneath it and catch it. The analogy in terms of opportunity and preparedness is that ball being launched is an opportunity that's coming to you. Right now, it's on its way. To the extent that you're aware that you have a gift and a talent, or you're saying, no, I'm not going to worry about that, you know. I'm not that special. Well, you're walking to that spot, or you're just in the stands watching the game. You're not even on the field. But to the extent that you tell yourself, I am special, even though I can't put my finger on it right now, that's you starting to kind of trot to that spot. And as soon as you start to really get a clue as to what it is that is your passion, now you're on a dead sprint. And your job is to get underneath that moment of preparedness, underneath that moment of opportunity, and be prepared when it happens. There's an old saying that I'd rather be prepared and not have an opportunity, and have an opportunity and not be prepared. That was a big saying that my mom kind of drummed into me. My humble beginnings. I was born in Harlem, New York, and to a father that did not want me, had to be forced by a court order to take a blood test to prove that he was in fact my father. And so basically my mother had the deck stacked against her. She raised me by herself. My father eventually did just split by the age of when I was like 3 or 4. And she said, I'm going to make sure that my son is as smart as I can possibly make him, and so that he'll have all the opportunities that come his way. So when I was 5 years old, I was actually writing in cursive, if you can believe that. 5 years old. Most kids were just learning their ABCs. I knew my ABCs, I could print, and I could write in cursive. And what person teaches their 5-year-old how to write in cursive? Well, this woman. Anyway, from the age of 5, well, from grades 5 to 7, I never got a B. I was an A student. I was always a grade ahead of the people that I was in school with. So essentially, this was me. Yeah. Yeah, I know, isn't it adorable? Yeah. Poindexter. Girls are yucky. I want to be a scientist when I grow up. So, in between studying, I would draw. I loved comic books. Comic books were the world to me. I was also a fast runner, so all the tough guys would beat me up because they like to have a fast kid on their team. That's what kind of kept me out of real trouble. But I loved to draw. And comic books was what I was totally into. These are my early inspirational artists: Saul Buscema, Jack Kirby, and Neil Adams. I actually got to meet Neil Adams at Disney because a group of legendary comic book artists came and spoke, and he was very happy that I was focusing on him, because the big shot, young guy that was hip and cool that all the other animators wanted, he was more recent. Neil Adams was obviously older, and he was kind of standing in the back. I'm like, excuse me, sir, but you Neil Adams? He's like, well, yes, I am. And so I got his autograph and signed a couple of my comic books. But this is what I did to be entertained. Drawing a lot from comic book artists. Every Saturday night, my mom would take me across town, walk across town, nice Saturday night walk, and we would pass the Apollo Theater, which on that marquee it says, where stars are born and legends are made. All the Motown greats performed at the Apollo Theater. I'm going to name some names that you will know nothing about. James Brown, Aretha Franklin. Well, really? No kidding. Okay. And Diana Ross, The Supremes, Four Tops. Wow, okay, cool, check it out. And so we got to kind of see them once in a while going in and out of the Apollo. Well, every Saturday night, mind you, we would go and she would get a newspaper and get me some comic books. And that was me, my heart racing now when I think about it, because I still remember those days. When I was putting this PowerPoint together, I thought, let me just check this out on the internet. And I Googled Harlem, photos of Harlem 1968. And this picture popped up. This is etched in my memory. One Saturday night, okay, this Thursday, April 4th, 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated. 2 days later, April 6th, that Saturday night, my mom and I go for our walk. We are crossing this intersection of 125th Street and Lenox Avenue. This is 125th Street going this way, and this is Lenox Avenue coming towards you. From this corner, this street here, on this side, comes a crowd of people. It sounded like someone flipped a switch, and there was the roar of a football stadium, just, and all these people come flooding into the avenue. This is a 4-lane street, 2 lanes coming this way, 2 lanes going that way. My mom and I were in the median when this happened. Right behind that crowd of people were mounted police and then squad cars. And I heard pop, 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 and I saw what I thought were fireworks on the pavement. They were shooting into the crowd, and we were watching bullets ricochet off the pavement. My mom grabs me, races across the street with me through the hail of bullets. It's a miracle we didn't get shot. Into a cigar store, went to the back of the cigar store and looked out. We hid in the telephone booth, and we were able to look out the window at the right as it was happening, and we saw this. Basically, that was happening everywhere. And at 9 years old, I was traumatized and thinking, what is this? And it ended as quickly as it came. I tell you this because, once again, this is part of my background. This is the environment that I came from. So, lest you say, well, you know, I'm not from a good area, what could ever happen good to me? Don't say that. It's got nothing to do with your potential and your ability. So that was my role. That's my mom with me up here. This is my angel. She since passed away 3 years ago. But she prepared me. She prepared me for that moment of truth when opportunity finally knocked. In 1971, the ABC, A Better Chance Foundation, scoured Harlem looking for 4 candidates for full scholarship to high school and college. And for those 4 slots, they found 4 people, and I was number 5. Didn't get to be in that 4 top spots. But here's a life lesson for you. One of those guys in that top spot was apparently, I guess you'd call him a troublemaker or a brawler. And they decided that they were not going to risk that kind of money on a bad investment. So he got taken out of that slot, and they slid me in. So it's something to understand that your attitude definitely influences your success. If you're a prima donna, if you are, a head case, that translates into a loss of income, a loss of opportunity. I've seen it time and time again at every level. People don't like to work with people that are hard to work with. They like people that are problem solvers and are easy to work with. Your attitude is everything. Your attitude affects your altitude, put it that way. I didn't come up with that. But you can vote me. Okay, so I chose to go to the Putney School. I was given an option of several schools. To go to the Putney School was one of them. And this is me, circle down here in the middle. And this is Tim Daly, the guy that I showed you. That was Tim with all the hair. Why he's going to club that guy, I have no idea. But, and this is not the baseball team. They just got props and they want to do a themed kind of picture, so that was us. So fast forward, I did 4 years at the Putney, Shelton College Manure. What an amazing experience. Glad I'm not going to do that again. Never say never. Our guidance counselor said to me, okay, so get serious. What do you want to do with your life? Life's going to be tough, it's going to be hard, grueling, yada, yada, yada. I said, well, it's going to be that tough and grueling, I want to do art. She said, get serious. You need a real job that pays real money. I said, well, if it's going to be that tough, I want to do something that I love. That way, if it becomes a drudgery, I'll be able to stick with it because I have a passion for it. And she said, all right, here's 4 schools that you can go look at. I went to New York, looked at these 4 schools, Pratt, Parsons, and Pratt Phoenix, and Rhode Island School of Design. I sat down with all 4. The first 3 took a look at my drawings and said, oh yeah, don't worry, yeah, you'll be able to get in. You're good enough to get in here. I think, wow, this is great. I haven't done anything, I'm already accepted. Let me go and look at Rhode Island School of Design, because they're supposed to be like really, really good. And when I got in line, very long line, finally got out there, right behind this girl with a ton of paintings. I had no paintings, she had a ton of paintings, and she was good, and the guy behind the desk representing Rhode Island School of Design is fawning all over her. Oh, yes, looks like a Chagall. Oh, this looks like a Picasso. Oh. And so he said, yes, you're definitely risky material. And so she packed up her stuff. Showed him my drawings. He took about 15 seconds looking at my work, handed them back to me and said, you're not risky material. Next. Say, what? Excuse me? And well, this is another life lesson. Even though you may be going in the right direction, okay, you will still receive opposition somewhere along the line to deter you. Do not be deterred. If you are certain that this is what you want to do, you've got to deal with all those oppositions as well. Doesn't mean you're going the wrong way, it just means you got to push a little bit harder. So when I got accepted at Pratt Phoenix, which really was a great school because that was catering to people who just wanted to be illustrators. And that's what I wanted to actually do. So we're going to get to all the pretty pictures in a little bit. But I turned them down. I told them I was waiting for my response from RISD, and they're like, oh, okay, we understand. Which made me realize, wow, those universities are taking a back seat to this one. Eventually, I did get in. I got waitlisted, but I got in. When I got to RISD, my focus started to change from comic book art to more painterly stuff. I saw Frank Frazetta's work for the first time, and it blew my mind because this guy was doing all fantasy stuff, but there was no line to it. It was all paintings. And that's when I thought, okay, I want to do something more like this. So I got more into color, but I wasn't doing oils. I was more involved in watercolors. And then another inspirational artist was J.C. Leyendecker, who was circa 1920, 1930. I just loved his kind of work because it was so sculptural. Everything looked like it was made out of marble, and everything was so fashionable. So that's when the light went off about fashion in my mind. And then Alphonse Mucha was the third artist that I really was inspired by. I loved the shapes, loved how he fit the human figure into compositions with all kinds of patterns around it, made it look really colorful. So when I graduated from, or was about to graduate from RISD, there was a competition that came up. This is a painting that I did. And we were all going to be submitting work to go into the Society of Illustrators gallery as a student show. People from all over the country looked at, and I had the great honor and pleasure to actually go and hang in the Society of Illustrators gallery with my two best friends from college, which is kind of a funny story. We always knew that Ron would get in because he was an amazing artist. I got in, Ron comes to me and says, "Hey, I heard you got in." I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to New York." I'm like, "Hang out and be at the gallery. It's gonna be so cool." "What about Steve?" "Oh yeah, I know. It's gonna be a bummer." Knock, knock, knock. "Hey, Steve, what's going on, man?" "Yeah, hey, I heard you and Ron got into the show." Yeah, you know, it was kind of fun. It's not like that much fun. "I got it too, yeah!" So all three of us got to go, and it was a lot of fun. At the show, my friend Ron said, "You know why you won an award?" This guy, it's won a $300 award. He said, "You know why you won the award, don't you?" "No, why?" He says, "Look at that judge." There was a girl who was one of the judges who looked a lot like this. And then she later on came to me and said, "I really love your artwork." Yeah, it looks like you. That's why you love it. So right before I graduated, we had a guest speaker, George Stavrinos. And he was a fashion illustrator, and this guy's at the top of his game right when I was graduating. He was the illustrator for Bergdorf Goodman in New York, and he was in every New York Sunday Times every Sunday, and this guy was just an amazing artist. He was like a human airbrush. And he spoke, and that's when I knew that's what I wanted to do. I moved to New York, tried to break into the fashion industry. It did not work. I wound up getting a job in a small art studio at the back of a factory that produced like wall plaques and you know, letter openers. And what would happen is the companies that were going to give their clients whatever stuff, they want their logos put on these items. I did that for about 8 months, and I got really, really depressed. And I went to the art director, who was a great guy, and I said, "I can't stay here." He says, I know, you want to do fashion. He says, "Why don't you go and pursue your dreams?" That was a wonderful thing. He didn't give me any pressure. He understood where I was coming from. So I moved back to Rhode Island. I put a portfolio together. I'm thinking George Stavrinos. So I started doing these kinds of renderings. And I put together, these are called Women in Doorways. Couldn't think of a better name for it. It's just women standing in front of architectural backgrounds. But it worked for the time being. And although I actually never sold any of these, what it did provide was a body of work that art directors could look at and start to get a sense of my style. Fast forward, rather, it was too detailed. It would take too much time. In advertising, things go a lot quicker. But I did finally land a gig with Filene's Basement and Filene's Department Store, which is like Dillard's down here. They're very large chains. And then other smaller boutiques and shops started using me as their illustrator. That was the girl downstairs who I later married. I guess she thought I was cute, right? And so she was a model who modeled for me quite a bit. And this is me doing color work, and this is watercolor. I was too skittish to actually get into oils. It didn't really fit in because oils take so long to dry, and when you're doing advertising, it just doesn't work with your schedule. You want something that's faster. That's Mary Ellen once again. That's my model, my wife. That's my mom, and my son. I just had to do a painting of her, and I knew that at some point that'd be all I'd have to remember her by. So that's her and Wesley when he was a baby. Okay, so this is some portraiture work, more watercolor. I worked with photographs. I would work with what was called, well, it was basically a overhead projector, but it was designed for illustration work. And I would always draw it out just in line work, and then turn it off, and then start rendering, looking at the layout. These were samples for Fleer baseball cards. My friend Ron, who had gotten a gig with Fleer, they were doing an illustrated line of baseball cards, and I wanted to get into it. You got to get into this. This is so much fun. The figures watercolor, and the backgrounds are color pencil. But these are all done in watercolor. So I would mask off the figure so that the color wouldn't bleed out, and I could paint the figure perfectly and then get the backgrounds done. So there were a number of these, and once again, I think we'll go back. Once again, by the way, if you're a baseball player, although this is a great pose, he just popped up the ball, so he's out. The catcher just comes and goes, "Thank you." It looks so heroic, though. I'm like, yes, but it's bad for this guy. And so I did a bunch of these. As it turned out, Fleer discontinued the line of baseball cards right when they brought me in, so I had nowhere to go. But okay, thanks anyway. And Ron was always my contact for the outside world, apparently. He called me up one day and says, "Dude, I'm going to go work at Disney, and you got to try out for this position. They're scouring the planet for background painters." I remember meeting people when I went to art school who were just geeky for Disney. I had no desire to work at Disney. Nothing bad, just a statement. My focus was over here, Disney was over there. So I was actually I was this close to getting an in-house position as an in-house fashion illustrator. This had happened simultaneously when he called me. And he says, "You gotta try this." I said, "Well, I think I'm actually gonna be set working here." He says, "Okay, well, call me if you change your mind." I hung up. This is so bizarre. My next door neighbor that next day said, "I had a dream you were working at Disney." Isn't that weird? Weirder than you know, yes. And then my brother-in-law came back from Disney with his family and says, "Hey, listen, I just went through that whole animation tour, those people painting down there, you could do that." That's 3 people talking to me about working at Disney in 1 week. I called Ron up and said, "Send me this stuff, just send it to me." So what they do as a test is they send you a color photo of an existing background, an existing Disney background, and they tell you what the media is that it was painted in, and then you try and copy it to the best of your ability. And Ron told me there was a guy who did 12 paintings and never got in, so good luck. Thanks, that's really helpful. I wound up doing 3, and they finally accepted me. And they were looking for people all over the planet. There was a guy from Russia that never got there because he didn't have the right visa, and they brought in 2 guys from China. We all started at the same time. Once I got in, the movie that we were going to work on then was Mulan. They'd already been in production, and I was joining the team. Once I got in, they gave me more tests just to ramp me up, just to get me accustomed to the style. And I was just so happy to be there because it was Disney, and it just felt really cool, and all these people were so amazingly talented and nice. There were no head cases. Well, there was one. But anyway, and it wasn't me. And finally, the day came when I got my first production piece. And then the flood of fear just hit me. It just all invaded. No, this is really important. This is Disney. What happens if you fail? You moved your whole family here to Florida from Rhode Island. What are you going to do now? I think you're good. Let's see how good you are. Go ahead. Take this. Oh, it was coming out so horrible. So I picked it up, went to my boss's door. "Hey, Bob. Hey, what's going on?" "I can't do this." So he smiled, took it, and he started painting. Just kind of doing the basic blocking is what you call it. And I'm watching him, and I'm thinking, wow, you were really good. This guy worked on Aladdin. So I watched him do this, and he hands it back to me, and he just says, "Trust yourself." I was like, what? Trust yourself. And what he was saying is, forget the fear. If you have to, paint afraid. But don't not do it. Don't think that you can't do it. Trust yourself. That's my message to you guys. Trust yourself. Whatever you're going through, trust that you can get through it. You've been here before. Every time there's a challenge, it's just, like I said, a gut check that happens to everybody. But don't be on the negative side and say, I can't do it. Trust yourself, and if you have to, do whatever it is afraid, until you realize, oh, wait a minute, there was nothing to be afraid of. So this was my first background. It was pretty simple. This is Mushu, Awakening the Stone Dragon. And I remember doing that and just thinking, that's the milestone. Once I do this, I'll be able to do everything else, and that's basically how it worked. This is a scene from Mulan. That's how it appeared on screen, and that. And I want to show you guys that scene that follows that picture. This is when Mulan is trying to prepare herself for the matchmaker. And what's important about this scene is myself and one other artist did all the backgrounds for this scene that I'm going to show you. So whatever you do, don't look at the characters, look at the background. Just kidding. Look at the characters and enjoy the humor of the scene. Too skinny. Oh, this background was amazing. Silent movies. I know, those backgrounds were great, right? Weren't they amazing? Yeah, just kidding. The good and bad thing about being a background painter is that everybody sees your work but nobody notices it. But that's when you know that it's done well. Because if it's drawing attention to itself, it's not working. So these are some other scenes that I had worked on. You see backgrounds without and then with the characters. The fireworks tower, and with the special effects on top of it. This background took about a week to paint, and it was on screen for a second. Because those guys slammed these two big red doors right in front of you. Bam, you can't see anything. That's typical. But it makes it hard when you're in the audience and you want to show your family. And another background. Sometimes the foreground elements are also the job of the background painter. So I have to paint the water trough. The water trough. And those are painted on acetate. At least back then, they used to be before everything went digital. With 2D animation, you would paint stuff in the foreground on clear plastic, and they would sandwich the characters between that and the background. If that makes sense. This whole background was painted on acetate so that you could look through and see the animation behind it, where that window is. That was all clear, and all of this is painted on plastic, basically, which was a very strange technique, but that's how we did it. Another background, and that's all I have to show you for Mulan. I had over 100 backgrounds in Mulan. Oh, and this is actually the very last scene in the movie, so I actually had the privilege of painting the last scene in Mulan and Lilo and Stitch. That was just coincidence. But I was like, wow, this is really funny. That happens. Very last scene. So with Lilo and Stitch, that's the last image in the movie. When they do a montage of the family now, that Stitch is with them, and so they have all these family shots, and that's the very last family shot you see, and the credits roll over that. This is watercolor. The funny thing is that I don't know if Disney ever did a watercolor background movie, or rather the backgrounds in their movies based on watercolor. I know that I think Dumbo and Sleeping Beauty, I'm sorry, Snow White, I think that was gouache. But anyway, the point is, a lot of the artists were freaking out because they were custom painting in acrylic. That's what they did everything in. All of a sudden they wanted to do a watercolor movie. Well, for me, like I said, it wasn't really so bad when those sports pieces that I showed you. Remember how I told you that they shut down the series of trading cards right when I got there? I had done all that stuff in watercolor. I was practicing watercolor. As it turns out, it benefited me in the long run. So even things that you may think are failures can still work to your benefit later on. There's no such thing as an actual failure. You always learn from your mistakes. It's not a death sentence. Everyone fails. It's going to happen, but you learn from it. And this actually, just for information, was the background I was working on at 9/11. When 9/11 happened. This is how the characters kind of fit into it. I mean, everyone kind of remembers where they were during 9/11. That was a background painting that I did at that point. And then there's Brother Bear. I'm not going to go through all the movies because we don't have that much time, but we went back to acrylic for Brother Bear, and this was also an interesting moment for backgrounds because this was only the second time that Disney had used an existing artist, background artist style to style the movie. The last time it had happened was for Sleeping Beauty. And Ivan Earl was a background painter at the studio then, and they loved Ivan Earl's style, so they patterned everything after his style for the movie. We had a Chinese plein air or outdoor painter, and we had to start all painting like Jay. And Jay was all puffed up, walking around, little Chinese guy like that. You want to paint like me now? Like, yeah, Jay, relax. So we did a lot of outdoor scenes, obviously, with Brother Bear. Wakeboard design, guy that I knew, his artist left, and so I stepped in. And also, once again, all Photoshop, but drawn from scratch. Photographic reference always makes everything look more believable. Self-promotion stuff, as you can see here, I would typically render out the character first and then put them in an environment, coloring them and lighting them however I wanted to portray it. The writing stuff, let me try and fly through these quickly. I found out, and I didn't even realize when I was going to school, I think maybe when I was around your age, I realized I loved to write. People would complain, oh my gosh, I gotta do a 5-page paper, I gotta do a 10-page paper, and I'd be right there with, oh man, drag. I'd be doing like 20 pages, not even thinking about it, not realizing, I guess I like to write. And of course, the teacher's like, I only asked for 10, why you give me 20? I'm like, well, I'm good to express my ideas. So I realized I like to write, so I wrote a bunch of screenplays. For those of you who are writers, whenever you write something, try and do a tagline. A tagline is your concept in a sentence. Because if you're submitting something, people want to know what it is at a glance. So a tagline is a great thing to practice doing. It's difficult, but it's necessary. It's so much easier to write 100 words. It's hard to distill it down to 5. You know, angels and demons at war on earth. That's the concept. This is actually a photograph that I just kind of photoshopped into place. The other was an actual illustration. Yeah, that's drawn from scratch. That's not Photoshop. That was a watercolor and then ink on top of it. Every time we do any kind of characters, and this is just me doing characters for my own stuff, you want to do visual development and character design. So your challenge is to perform a random act of kindness. I'm asking you guys to all consider doing this. Why? Because a random act of kindness, yes. Like, what does that do anything? To perform a random act of kindness, you will have to use the same qualities that you will use to be successful. It's a fact. Believe it or not. And some of you say, I'm not going to do that. Trust me, that decision that you just made, will impact your ability to be successful. You've got to step out of your comfort zone. The random act of kindness is actually very easy. It's a great test. Courage. You're going to have to show courage, the ability to do something that you're fighting with. Nothing this dangerous. I'm talking even just opening a door for someone. If you're with your buddies and you're cool and they're cool and some uncool person needs a hand with the door, you've got to say to yourself, I don't care what my friends say. I'm going to do this. There's a little courage that's involved there. Will you be able to take that kind of criticism? What are you holding that door for them for? Okay, there's a certain element of courage involved there. Initiative. The power to take charge before others do. You're going to be the first one. You're going to be by yourself. So feel very uncomfortable about that. Action. You've got to get yourself into motion. You can't think about it. You can't hope about it. You've got to do it. This is all part of your success. All these things will be involved in the challenges that you will face once you get out of school, or go to college, or get a job. Determination. When that person looked at me and said, you're not really material, I could have stopped. I could have quit. If I did, I never would have been at Disney. It would have been a totally different path. Maybe it would happen, but I know it definitely happened because I persevered, because I remained determined. And lastly, creativity. For that random act of kindness, you're going to have to think about how you want to do this. Am I going to help pick up the books? Am I going to stand there and wait? Am I going to open the door with a flourish? Whatever. It's still a level of creativity that you've got to engage yourself with. The most successful individuals provide the greatest service for the most amount of people. You want to be successful in life, provide a service, or get involved with people who do provide a service. What that means, the illustration, how many people own a car? How many people want to own a car? How many people have ever been in a car? Henry Ford provided a huge service to the greatest amount of people. Anybody got a computer? Great service to a huge amount of people. Steve Jobs. Anybody on Facebook? Right? Anyone know somebody on Facebook? When these people were in your position, did they know they were going to do this? No. Absolutely not. No clue. But they developed a passion for something once they did get a clue, and they stuck with it, and they worked it as hard as they could. Do you have to be the best at whatever it is that you do? No. All you got to do is strive to get better. Well, no telling how far you'll go or where your ability will take you. Opportunity comes to all of us. Do your best to be prepared. Thank you for having me.